Hello, everyone. Sorry. Unfortunately, I will not be able to give the speech today in person. I am sick, and last week I had a stress-induced psychotic breakdown, which, as you can imagine, is not much fun. However, the speech was recorded, so you'll still be able to watch it here in the theater. And in the speech, I actually do talk about feeling okay, and I want to emphasize one thing. Even though yesterday I felt like the world was gonna end, I am okay. Recovery is not something that's linear. Mental illness is not something that's easy. And even though today I feel, to be honest, quite bad, not only from the sickness, but also from my mental health, I'm okay. And I want to give a message that it's important to fight. It's important to continue living. So hopefully you enjoy my talk. It is quite short, but I think it's something that's worth spreading. Thank you.
Antipsychotics, antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication, mood stabilizers. We've all heard about at least one, I hope. But what are they? What are these medications? What is their purpose, their mechanism of action? That is what I hope to explore today on antipsychotics. Antipsychotics are medications primarily used to treat psychosis and psychotic disorders. However, they are also sometimes used to treat anxiety and depression. Before I begin, let's do an overview. I will be using schizophrenia as my example for treatment. But I want to emphasize that not everyone who takes antipsychotics is schizophrenic. Like I mentioned, they're used to treat a variety of disorders, including anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, and borderline personality disorder. Schizophrenic symptoms are divided into negative and positive. Negative symptoms show you a decrease or less of something, like emotion, movement, motivation, depression, right? And then we have the positive symptoms. These are hallucinations and delusions. These symptoms add something that's not there. Now a bit of history. The first antipsychotic was developed in the 1950s and was called chlorpromazine. These antipsychotics, the first ones, are called typical or first generation antipsychotics. The ones that followed in the 1990s until now are called second generation antipsychotics or atypical antipsychotics.
Now let's go on to the fun stuff, the mechanism of action. Antipsychotics are interact with neuroreceptors, specifically dopamine receptors. Receptors are receiving sites for a neurotransmitter. If a chemical binds, specifically dopamine in this case, the cell reacts and does something. In this case, typical antipsychotics are D2 dopamine antagonists, which mean that they block expression. Atypical antipsychotics are D2 and 5-HT2A serotonin antagonists, which means they interact with both of these neuroreceptors. This is just the ones that they have in common. Every antipsychotic interacts with many more receptors in many different ways. Now, normal antipsychotics are effective for many people, but some have tried at least 2 for 6 weeks, and those have not worked. These people are said to have treatment-resistant schizophrenia and are treated with the drug clozapine. This drug, or clozapine, is an atypical antipsychotic and works really well. It's extremely effective. It works against both positive and negative symptoms, which is fun. You may be asking, why don't we use it for everyone if it's so effective? Well, the reason is because it drastically lowers white blood cell counts. And we don't want that. People would get sick so often. So we don't use it as much, even though it's so effective. Now, I want to talk about myself. I have had hallucinations since I was around 13. I was put on medication when I was 14. And right now, I don't have hallucinations that often. I think that's in big part to my medication, first generation haloperidol, as I mentioned, and second generation amisulpride. But I don't only rely on antipsychotics, right? I also speak to my therapist every week, to my psychologist, and I have a network of friends and family who support me when I can't support myself. I ask for help now, which is something I could not imagine doing at 13. At 14, probably even not at 15. I'm grateful that I'm alive and can stand here in front of you and say, I'm okay, you know? I really am. I'm now a student at Queen Mary University of London. I'm studying, it's hard, but I love it. Before I started taking medication, I actually kind of wanted to be a historian, but my research and experience with medication made me want to be a scientist, so that's why I'm studying biomedical sciences now. It's great. Antipsychotics are fascinating, from the way they work all the way to their history. We should not be scared of them, but at the same time, we cannot only rely on them. Please reach out for help when you need to. It's important. Mental illness is prevalent in society. Whether it be depression or schizophrenia, all need to be taken seriously. Please reach out for help if you need to. I've compiled some resources if you need to talk to someone. Thank you.